Something strange is happening in Baltimore. One of the Ravens' biggest offensive names, Mark Andrews, has started popping up in trade rumors, and that's got a lot of people confused. Are the Ravens really thinking about moving on from their main target, or is this just locker room chatter? The truth is Baltimore is in a delicate spot, and when the pressure rises, anything can happen. Andrews is in the final year of his contract. The team is scrambling for answers, and the front office is feeling the heat. So the question is simple. Would Baltimore really give up one of its pillars to try to save the season? Mark Andrews is smack in the middle of a storm of rumors that keep getting louder. After a disappointing start to the year, just one win so far, the Ravens look ready to make big changes to try and turn things around, and Andrews, who has long been one of the faces of the offense, now shows up among potential trade pieces. Not many would have expected that a few months back, but things in Baltimore have gotten so tense that even established stars are suddenly on the table. What's interesting is these rumors didn't appear out of nowhere. According to Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, several teams around the league are watching Andrews closely, waiting for any sign Baltimore might actually make him available. The tight end is still one of the most respected players in the NFL, known for his chemistry with Lamar Jackson and his knack for making clutch plays. That's why just hearing his name in trade conversations tells you how different the mood in Baltimore feels right now. At the same time, it feels like these speculations are more about frustration than a concrete plan. Andrews has always been a quiet leader, the type of player who embodies the team's identity, tough, reliable, and relentless. Trading someone like him would be a clear sign the franchise is willing to tear things up for a quick fix, even if that costs long-term stability. But the idea of such a radical move also raises doubts. How far is it worth going to sacrifice a core offensive piece to try to patch other problems? Would giving up Andrews actually change the season's trajectory, or just leave the offense more vulnerable? Those are the hard questions Baltimore's front office has to answer in the coming weeks. What does seem clear is that the uncertainty around Andrews' future is far from over, and talk about a potential trade only grows louder when you factor in the single thing that could complicate any deal the most: his contract. The big problem for any team interested in Mark Andrews is his contract. He's still owed more than $3 million this season, and while that might not seem huge for a player of his caliber, it's enough to deter teams already tight against the salary cap. Plus, Andrews is in the final year of his deal, which means anyone who trades for him now risks losing him for nothing next offseason if he hits free agency. That's a gamble many general managers will think twice about. Another key point is the kind of investment a move for Andrews would demand. This isn't just about salary. It's also draft capital and long-term planning. Any franchise willing to bring him in needs to be clear on the type of offense it's trying to build and how he fits into that system. That's why, even with undeniable talent, Andrews' trade market may be smaller than it looks once all the details are considered. On the Ravens side, the situation isn't any easier. If they trade him now, they'll have to accept they won't get full value for what Andrews brings, not only on the field, but in leadership and locker room presence. But if they hold on to him and the season continues to slip away, they risk losing him for nothing. That outcome would sting for a franchise that's been trying to reestablish its offensive identity for years. So you get an impasse. Baltimore needs to move fast, but any hasty decision could backfire. This choice affects not just the remainder of the season, but the team's future direction and Lamar Jackson's trust in his supporting cast. And if anything might push the Ravens toward a decisive move, it's the precedent set by a recent trade that shook the locker room. A move that hints at how far this front office is willing to go to change course. The trade of Odafe Oweh for safety Alohi Gilman sent a loud signal across the league. Few saw Baltimore moving a starting defensive player that early, and that action made everyone realize the team isn't afraid of bold decisions. That precedent opened the door for even more intense speculation. If the Ravens were willing to trade a young starting edge rusher, why not move Andrews if they believe it would shore up another area of the roster? That move also revealed the front office's mindset, that no one is untouchable when results aren't coming. It's an aggressive approach, maybe even desperate, but reflects a team that started the year far below expectations. Baltimore has traditionally been steady and loyal to its core players, but this season feels different, and in that environment, a name like Andrews naturally becomes a speculation target. There's also a roster balance argument to consider. The Ravens' offense has been uneven while the defense has struggled to find consistent form. If the front office believes they can exchange Andrews for a defensive game-changer, the math starts to make sense strategically. That logic has guided recent moves, and it wouldn't be surprising to see something similar before the trade deadline. The psychological impact, though, would be huge. Trading such a symbolic figure could rattle the locker room and directly affect Lamar Jackson's confidence. Andrews has long been his most trusted target. That's the kind of decision that requires extreme caution, and that tension is exactly what makes this moment so fraught. And while the noise is louder now, this isn't the first time Andrews' name has been on other teams' radars. Interest has simmered for a while, and Baltimore has already been close to making a similar call in the past.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Even before the season kicked off, a handful of teams had reached out to the Ravens asking about Mark Andrews. There was interest from clubs looking for a veteran tight end who could immediately shift an offense's dynamic. At that time, Baltimore's answer was clear. He wasn't available. The team believed the Andrews-Lamar connection was too important to break, and trade conversations were shut down quickly. That stance made sense. Andrews is more than a player for the Ravens. He's an extension of Lamar on the field, a go-to on third downs and in high-pressure moments. Coach John Harbaugh and Lamar have both emphasized how integral he is to the offensive scheme. Trading him back then would have felt like taking 2 steps back in the progress they'd made. But time changes things. A disappointing start and subsequent roster moves have shifted the internal atmosphere. What once felt impossible is now being debated in closed-door meetings. It's not about a lack of appreciation for Andrews. It's about a desperate search for solutions before the season slips away entirely. This situation also shows how ruthlessly pragmatic the NFL can be. Emotional value matters only so much. When results aren't arriving, even beloved players can end up on the market. That's the position Baltimore finds itself in now, balancing loyalty against logic and weighing whether to keep the star tight end or trade him for help elsewhere. While the front office sorts through its options, one undeniable fact remains. Andrews' performance over the next few weeks could determine everything: his value, his future, and maybe even the direction of the whole team moving forward. So far, Andrews' production has dipped. 21 catches for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns over 6 games. Those are solid numbers, but not at the level we've come to expect from him. Part of that drop owes to offensive adjustments, and the team struggled to find rhythm. Still, his skill and leadership are unmistakable, which is why his name carries so much weight in trade discussions. At 30 years old, Andrews still has plenty to offer. He remains one of the league's most complete tight ends. Crisp routes, reliable hands, and competitors' mindset. But age and contract considerations muddy the picture for any front office, deciding whether to keep building around him or cash in now. For the Ravens, the choice is stark. Hang on to Andrews and take one last stab at turning the season around, or trade him now and fetch a player who can make an immediate defensive impact. Neither path is easy. Keeping him preserves offensive chemistry but limits flexibility. Trading him could shore up other areas, but leave Lamar without his most trusted weapon. Mark Andrews' future is still wide open, but there's a growing sense that something major is coming. If recent Ravens history is any guide, don't be shocked if they make another bold move before the deadline. One that could define not just this season, but the franchise's future. Mark Andrews' possible departure puts the Ravens in a spot that could reshape their season. Trading a player his caliber would be a huge gamble, but keeping him without a long-term deal in place could cost just as much. The team faces a binary choice: preserve the Lamar, Andrews connection, or shift priorities to address other roster needs. Either route has massive implications. One thing is clear: the coming days in Baltimore will be tense. Andrews is still the heartbeat of the offense, but uncertainty hangs over everything. Will the Ravens actually take the risk and move a team leader? Or will they hold firm and trust that Andrews can help spark a turnaround? Whatever happens, this story is far from over, and it could decide everything for Baltimore going forward.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.